Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team half-PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot over on FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. The expert rankings is what we're going to be drafting against, as well as the composite average draft position. But before we could get into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team half PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot. So the biggest difference between half PPR and full PPR, at least in my opinion, is early on in fantasy drafts. I feel like this year in full PPR drafts, we are going to be seeing a lot more wide receivers go in the first round, but I think in half PPR leagues, it's going to kind of be like the quote-unquote normal of the past, where there are a lot of running backs going in the first round. The draft begins with Christian McCaffrey, followed by Justin Jefferson, Austin Eckler, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. I still do believe, though, even in half PPR leagues, Justin Jefferson could easily be the first pick, and in my opinion, I'm probably still taking Justin Jefferson at the number 1 overall pick in a half PPR league. So again, since this is half PPR, we have seen a lot more running backs go with the first 9 picks compared to, I would say, in most PPR leagues. So looking here at the 1.10, the best available players in my opinion are Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So while I like Jonathan Taylor this year, and while I think that people are kind of overreacting to what happened last year with Jonathan Taylor, sure, he sucked ass, right? We get it. He gets hurt. He's a big fat bust. You drafted him number 1 overall, and he kicked your team directly in the gonads. But ultimately, do I think that Jonathan Taylor should be picked at the 1.10? Do I feel comfortable doing it? Yes. But am I going to do it in this scenario when I'm perfectly fine drafting Josh Jacobs in the second round or 9-inch Nicholas Chubb? I would rather just wait until the second round and kind of roll the dice and hope one of them fall to me. And if they don't, I'm fine just going double wide receiver. So again, I still think Jonathan Taylor is going to bounce back, but I would feel a lot more comfortable getting him at the 201, right? So if I'm the 12th overall pick, I draft someone else, then I get Jonathan Taylor rather than taking him at the 110. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. And I have heavily considered putting 9-inch Nicholas Chubb over Jonathan Taylor in my rankings, moving Nick Chubb into the S tier and demoting Jonathan Taylor into an A tier or tier number 2 running back. So we are going to go wide receiver here. I think the best wide receiver available is Stephon Diggs. Had Travis Kelce been available, he would have been my pick. I think you can debate between Diggs and Adams here. People like CeeDee and AJ Brown more than Devontae Adams. I think I'm just more of a Devontae Adams guy, but I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs here. I know there was a lot of talk about Stephon Diggs and him not being happy in Buffalo, but it seems like that has all kind of been nullified. Stephon Diggs is happy to be a Buffalo Bill. He's happy to make all that money, and he's the clear number 1 wide receiver in this offense. Obviously, if they bring in DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think that completely devalues Stephon Diggs, but I'd probably start to consider moving Stephon Diggs down the rankings if D-Hop did end up joining the Bills. After Stephon Diggs, we see CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Taylor, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, and AJ Brown. So the question I have for you guys in the comments section is, right now, if you were doing your actual fantasy football draft, your real fantasy football draft that you probably do in late August or early September, today, would you be fine drafting Josh Jacobs, or do you think he is too much of a risk because of the holdout? I have seen some comments that believe that Josh Jacobs could hold out at a 50-50% shot, right? 50%, there's no holdout. 50%, he is holding out and might miss multiple games. To be honest with you, I am closer to the belief that I think Josh Jacobs is going to be perfectly fine, that Josh Jacobs is going to be good to go for week number 1. Maybe they restructure the contract, maybe they don't. I'm going to be honest with you, he might just play on the franchise tag. I don't think this is a Le'Veon Bell situation where he goes jet skiing in Miami and we don't see Josh Jacobs play this season. I'd be shocked if that happens. So I am confident in taking Josh Jacobs, but I do understand that if you are drafting right now, maybe your league wants to draft in July because that's when they can get everyone together. I get it. People want to draft at different times. I think I would still be confident in taking Josh Jacobs here and thinking he is going to play the whole season. If you're someone that doesn't think that Josh Jacobs is 100% good to go, I think you'd want to move Zamir White up the rankings because to me, he's the clear number 2 running back there. So we'll stay away from Josh Jacobs, even though in a lot of situations I would take him. I think Tony Pollard is fine at the 203. People seem to really be hyping him up. I am a little bit worried that they might end up bringing in another running back to kind of take away some touches from Tony Pollard because the depth behind Pollard is Deuce Vaughn and Malik Davis, who just aren't all that great in my opinion. But we are going to go wide receiver here. It's between Davante Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have Davante Adams ranked ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I like to switch things up again. I don't want to just draft every single team with Davante Adams in the second round because he falls there, and then Davante Adams gets hurt, and every fucking team I have is a disaster. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he has legitimate number 1 wide receiver upside this season. He's the clear number 1 wide receiver on the Detroit Lions offense that wants to throw the fuck out of the ball. Jared Goff is a much better quarterback than people give him credit for, and I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown has league-winning upside. And I think for the first 6 weeks of the season, when Jameson Williams is suspended, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to go absolutely fucking insane. After Amon-Ra, we see Davante Adams, Tony Pollard, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, Keenan Allen, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Mock Andrews, Jalen Waddle away, Waddle, till the very next day, Dameon Pierce, Chris Olave, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Jones, as well as Josh Allen. So, my opinion on quarterbacks this year is I think in basically every single league, even in the sharper leagues where people would normally in the past, the more competitive players, wait until maybe the 4th round for the first quarterback come off the board. I think in most drafts, Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts are all going to be gone by the end of the 3rd round, and I think in some leagues they'll be taken in the 2nd round, and obviously there are going to be leagues where someone takes a fucking quarterback in the 1st round, even if you think that that's a bad move. It's bound to happen in at least some of your guys' leagues, right? There's thousands of people that could potentially watch this video. In someone's league, a quarterback's going to go in the 1st round. I'm talking about 1 quarterback leagues, obviously. In Superflex leagues, there might be 8 quarterbacks off the board in the 1st round. So we are up to pick here. Would have loved to get Mark Andrews at the end of the 3rd round, but based upon current ADP and based upon how drafts have been going, that just doesn't seem very plausible. Looking at the board, Jalen Hurts is an excellent pick here in the 3rd round, but I've done so many of these drafts where I take quarterback early that I almost want to start waiting at quarterback to see how my teams look, and I think that's a great thing to do when you're doing mock drafts. So here in the 3rd round, would I prefer to get Joe Mixon in the 4th round? 100%, but I think he's a fine 3rd round pick. I think everything with his contract is going to be fine. I know a lot of people are worried about that, but ultimately I think Joe Mixon is going to be the workhorse running back of the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, one of the best fucking teams in the NFL. You can get him in the 3rd round. I think there's a big drop-off from Mixon to these other running backs. I think Walker is an acceptable pick in like the 4th or the 5th round. Where he's going in some drafts, though, in the 1st or 2nd round is 100% questionable considering they brought in Zach Charbonnet. I also want to point out that when I put on this outfit and I sat down with how my hair looks, I look like a fucking greaser from The Outsiders, if you guys have ever read that book. I think probably most of you guys have read that book because you just had to in school, I think. At least that's how it worked in New Jersey. So we're going to go with either Joe Mixon. We could go with T. Higgins, but I'm already pretty confident in Stephon Diggs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we're going to go with Joe Mixon here, even though some people might consider that to be a slight reach. After we went ahead and drafted Joe Mixon, we see the boy Jalen Hurts comes off the board, followed by T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, and Kenneth Walker III. So our team right now, Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, do I mind drafting J.K. Dobbins? No, I don't mind it. Do I mind drafting Sanders? No. Madison? But to me, there's a pretty big fall-off in my confidence level from Mixon to those guys. Again, Stephon Diggs and Amon-Ra St. Brown are our wide receivers 1 and 2. I love Lamar Jackson this year, but I think I might be able to get Justin Fields in the 5th round, and I have Justin Fields ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson. If you want to make an argument about it, it's really grasping at straws, right? I like Justin Fields just slightly more. They're in the same tier of quarterbacks, in my opinion. So it's the big three, Allen, Mahomes, as well as Jalen Hurts. And then tier 2 for me is Fields and Lamar. Some people might even consider Burrow to be in that tier as well. It's like splitting hairs if you don't have an argument about that. So here, again, while I like Lamar, I think we're going to wait. TJ Hawkinson's a guy that I'm starting to kind of key in on a little bit more. I could see him outscoring Mark Andrews, but I do definitely like Andrews more than him. We're probably just going to go with our third wide receiver here because there's one that is still on the board that I love this season, and that is Amari Cooper. I have talked about this Cleveland Browns offense ad nauseum in my videos. A lot of people are down on the Cleveland Browns offense because they think that Deshaun Watson is finished. He's been hit by the fucking Mortal Kombat come get over here finisher, and he's done for, right? They think that the Deshaun Watson they saw last season, who looked like a steaming pile of dog shit, is the same quarterback that they are going to get in 2023. Now, if that is the case, and I am wrong, and Deshaun Watson is just straight up garbage, then a lot of my fantasy teams, a lot of my underdog best ball teams are going to be dead in the water like Luca Brasi sleeping with the fishes. But ultimately, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that the Cleveland Browns offense is going to step up. Amari Cooper looked great last year under Jacoby Brissett. Once they went to Deshaun Watson, things got a little bit more finicky, but I think Amari Cooper has top 5 wide receiver upside. I think this offense is going to be potent, scoring a bunch of points, and I am in love with Amari Cooper this year. Amari Cooper's always been a high draft pick in fantasy drafts. At least it feels like it for his whole career, from being a Raider, the Las Vegas Raiders, to the Dallas Cowboys, all the way to the Cleveland Browns. I'm a big fan of Amari Cooper this year. I have also talked about the fact that I am not big on DK Metcalf this season. I don't necessarily think DK Metcalf is a bad player. I actually think quite the opposite. But do I want to take a wide receiver in a crowded offense in the 4th round when he goes in the 3rd round? In the 4th round, I'm a little bit more open to it, if I'm being honest with you. But in the 3rd round, where I see him going in most drafts, I don't want anything to do with DK Metcalf at that price. After Amari Cooper, we see Just Kidding, Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins, DK Metcalf, Debo, Samuel, T.J. Hawkinson, Calvin Ridley, Cam Akers, Jerry Jeudy, Miles Sanders, Alexander Mattison. The 5th round opens with Wiki, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Christian Watson, Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Hopkins, Drizzy Drake, London, Dalvin Cook, James Conner, and Christian Kirk. I understand that last year, Christian Kirk used his left hand like he was Conor McGregor when he put Aldo to sleep and just KO'd defenses last year, but the addition of Calvin Ridley, while I think Christian Kirk could still be good, in the 5th round, that is just too high of a price, in my opinion, for Christian Kirk. So we're up to bat here. We got Mixon, Diggs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Amari Cooper. Just as I suspected, the boy Justin Fields is still available. I think he might be available in the 6th round as well, so we're going to consider looking more at other picks here. George Kittle's still available. Think he's a solid 5th round pick. The problem is, once you start getting into the 5th, 6th round, the running backs start to get really, really gross. And I think if you hammer the wide receivers early, like we did, even in a half PPR league, where we have Diggs, Amon-Ra, Amari Cooper, we're probably going to want to, if we get a quarterback, draft a bunch of running backs in a row after this. Again, I do love the hero running back strategy. This technically would not be a hero running back draft because Mixon is not a 1st or 2nd round pick. For the hero running back, you want to draft one of those stud running backs in the 1st or 2nd round, but it's almost kind of applicable here with Mixon, if Mixon is that guy like I think he is. So we're probably going to draft a quarterback here and then start hammering the running backs. Rashad White is disgusting in the 5th round. There is no way I'm doing that. So we're going to take Justin Fields here. We could go Joe Burrow, though, because I don't take Joe Burrow often. And again, I think it is a little bit crazy to just keep drafting the same quarterback in every single draft. So I'm going to go with Joe Shiesty here of the Cincinnati Bengals. His ADP is 31, which just seems egregiously high. What is Justin Fields? His is 42. I don't know. I feel like Joe Burrow will be available in the 5th round in a lot of leagues, right? I don't feel like the quarterbacks are going to be getting sprayed off the board early on here, besides Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes. So I'm going to go with Joe Shiesty here, even if, according to ADP, we got a fucking steal. I don't think that'll really be the case, if I'm being honest with you. I think people are going to start catching on, like I have, to taking Justin Fields over Joe Burrow. After Joe Shiesty, we got DeAndre Swift, George Kittle, Chris Godwin, and Mike Dubb. So here, we are going to go running back. I think Rashad with 2A's White in the 6th round is a fair value for him. I have been someone who's very nervous about him, but I will tell you right now, if they go into the season, if things played out, and the roster looks like what it looks like right now, Rachaad White's a fucking, not a steal in the 6th round, but a great pick because he's great pass-catching prowess, and he is the only running back on that team that has legitimately any ounce of skill in their body. If they bring back Leonard Fournette, if they bring in Zeke, if they bring in another free agent running back, they bring in Kareem Hunt, then backpedal on Rachaad White. But right now, I think Rachaad White is acceptable at that pick. Even if I don't love it, I think he's a fine running back number 2 because, again, with how we've drafted here, I don't necessarily think Rachaad White is going to be in our lineup every single week. So after we went ahead and drafted Rachaad White, Kyle Pitts, Michael Pittman Jr., Dallas Goedert, Tyler Lockett in my pocket skirt, Justin Herbert the pervert, Darren Waller, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Brandon Ayuk, Dickie Dak Prescott, David Montgomery, Isaiah Pacheco, Javonte Williams, Rashad Penny, Deshaun Watson, James Cook, Tua Tagovailoa, and A.J. Dillon. Some positive news came out about Javonte Williams. He's talking about how he feels like he's going to be ready. He's going to be all ramped up. Let's see. If I was in Javonte Williams' situation, I would say the exact same fucking thing. I'm going to be good to go for week 1. I'm this, I'm that, I'm great. I still like Javonte Williams, but in the 7th round might be a little rich based upon his health right now. So looking at the board, like I said, we kind of want to go and start drafting a bunch of running backs, but in the 7th round, Alvin Kamara is not worth it. I fully understand that if Alvin Kamara does not get suspended, I'm going to look like a dumbass because I haven't drafted Alvin Kamara at all. I have not been drafting him at all because I assume he's going to get suspended. If he doesn't get suspended, then I'm going to look like an idiot. Deontay Johnson, Mike Evans, Hollywood Brown, Treylon Burks. At this range here, I love a lot of these wide receivers. I think I'm going to go wide receiver, then running back. Deontay Johnson is my favorite. I legitimately think Deontay Johnson has top 12 upside. This guy has been getting peppered with targets his whole career. It doesn't matter if it's Big Ben Roethlisberger, fucking Mason Rudolph, who's getting his helmet fucking smacked against his head by Myles Garrett. Doesn't matter if it's Duck Hodges, Kissin' Titties Trubisky, or if it's Kenny Pickett. He gets targets. The problem is last year he only scored 0 touchdowns. 0. But he scored 6, 7, and 8 the prior 3 seasons. Let's be honest, that's an outlier. We think that's going to change. If that does change, then Deontay Johnson is looking like a screaming value in the 7th round, and I think a lot of people are going to start catching up on that. This is a team where I don't think I would consider Alvin Kamara, if I'm being honest with you, because, again, I just don't think he's going to be good to go for week 1. So Khalil Herbert in the 8th round is a little gross. So is Antonio Gibson. But at this point where we faded running back, we don't necessarily want to chase the running back position, but drafting a guy like Freiermuth, Ingram, or Njoku to fill my tight end spot right now just isn't ideal because I don't think they're worth that 8th round pick, right? I'm not fiending, I'm not jonesing to draft a fucking tight end here. So, like, if Kittle or someone was magically still here, then yeah, I'd be jumping through the screen to smash the draft button, but they're just not. So, we're probably going to end up reaching a little bit on a running back. That's just how things go, though, because let's be honest, like when you have Diggs, St. Brown, Cooper, and Johnson, 4 guys that I am incredibly confident in, there's no reason to draft Treylon Burks here or Pickens, Addison. I don't like Pickens, but Dotson, Addison, the guys that I really like. So we're going to go running back. I think if you want to draft a safe running back, right, if you're nervous about White, you're nervous about Mixon, Brian Robinson is that safety pick, right? I'm going to go with Khalil Herbert. Again, I genuinely believe he's the running back one. I've seen a bunch of bullshit. Nick, they wouldn't have brought in Donta Foreman. They wouldn't have drafted Roquan Johnson if Khalil Herbert wasn't their guy. Guess what? Roschon Johnson wasn't a fucking first-round pick, right? Donta Foreman, they paid him 4 fucking cents to be the running back on their team. So I really think Khalil Herbert is that guy. I'm going to continue to draft him that way. If I'm wrong, it is what it is. I like Gibson a ton in that range as well. And again, when I say this about Herbert, it doesn't mean that I don't think you shouldn't draft Johnson or Foreman super late. I think that's fine. But I think Khalil Herbert is going to start getting steamed up draft boards, especially once we start to see some hype out of camp for him. After Khalil Herbert, we see Antonio Gibson, Treylon Burks, Alvin Kamara, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, Zach Charbonnet, Jordan Addison Ray, Jackson Smith and the Jigba, Kadarius Toney. The 9th opens with Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Rashad Masterbateman, Damian Harris, Cortland Sutton, Quentin Johnston, Brian Robinson Jr., Nico Collins, and Jamal with 2A's Williams. So, looking at our team again, we still don't have a tight end, but at some point, you're better off just waiting. If you look at by roster here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams don't have a tight end. me included. The tight end run is going to start eventually. I like Freiermuth, and I'm starting to like Freiermuth a lot more than I did like a couple weeks ago. But again, in the 9th round, like, there's not a large gap between Freiermuth and these other guys. I talk about this a ton. If you're not paying up for Kelsey, for Andrews, I'm kind of just content in waiting. Like, I like Kittle. I like Waller. So if I can get them where I feel they're good value, I'm drafting them. But I'm not fucking going into the draft thinking I need to draft one of those middle tight ends, in my opinion. So looking at the board here, our team looks really good. We still don't have a tight end, but it doesn't matter. It's running back drafting time. I'm going to keep drafting running backs because, again, I'm confident in our wide receivers here. Elijah Mitchell is a great handcuff, but people seem to be talking about Elijah Mitchell like they think that Christian McCaffrey is just going to stop being a workhorse running back. Now, obviously, they might trickle down on touches, right? Maybe they don't make him getting the most touches at running back, the most snaps in the NFL. Sure, maybe they will. But if you think that they are going to fucking completely take away all of the touches of one of the best players in their offense, the best running back in the NFL, you would be fucking crazy to think that. And people think that. Now, again, is Elijah Mitchell, is he going to have some value in some games where he just vultures McCaffrey? Or if McCaffrey gets hurt, you're going to be ejaculating if you have Elijah Mitchell on your team, right? It's going to be amazing because you got the fucking starting running back on the San Francisco 49ers who scheme up great running back plays. Kyle Shanahan is a genius. He's like Dexter in his laboratory, right? But is Elijah Mitchell worth a 9th round pick? Is he? I don't know. Is Jerick McKinnon worth a 9th round pick? I don't think so. I think people are really anticipating McKinnon's going to do what he did at the end of last season, all season, which probably won't happen. The problem, though, is where we're sitting right now, none of these guys are really worth the 9th round pick, so you're going to have to reach. I think based upon the roster construction we have, I'm fine taking Elijah Mitchell. If something happens to McCaffrey, knock on wood, I'm going to be very happy. In a really positive situation, Mitchell could be startable. But again, I think people are really talking too much into Mitchell. People are getting too high on Elijah Mitchell, and I think, frankly, it's a little bit crazy. So after we went with Elijah Mitchell, we see Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mr. Corvette, Jerick McKinnon, Elijah Moore back up on the board here. At this point, I'm taking Freiermuth. If he falls to the 10th round, I'm happy taking him. I think he has that top 5 upside. He was another guy that didn't score a lot of touchdowns. The Steelers' offense was not very good in the red zone last year, and not very good. Might even be an understatement, right? Because they fucking sucked in the red zone. Najee being hurt for the season, like, he played, but you get what I'm saying. He was hurt. The O-line was a sieve. The offensive line was getting fucking plowed out late into the night like Adam 22's wife. So I think Pat Freiermuth here is a solid pick. He's a good tight end in an offense that I expect to bounce back. Again, when you're drafting these late round tight ends, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to make an argument positive for them. There's obviously going to be negative arguments you can make for all these guys, but that's what happens when you get this deep into the draft. After Pat Freiermuth, we see Devin Two Chains, Jeff Wilson Jr., Tyler Algier, Alan Lazard, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Jalen Warren, Jacoby Myers, Jameson Williams, Raheem the Dream Mostert, Rondale Moore, one of my favorite sleepers. I talked about him in my wide receiver sleeper video yesterday. Adam Thielen, Tyler, Boyd, Sky with 2 Ys, more, Zay Flowers, Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham Jr., KJ Osborne, and Romeo Dobbs. So we're back up on the board here, and at some point the running backs are really going to fall off, so we're going to continue to jam running backs here onto this team, because again, we're super confident in the wide receivers. If you want to draft 2 tight ends because you drafted Freiermuth, I won't say that's crazy. Wouldn't say it's crazy, but I'm normally someone who doesn't draft a second tight end, but maybe we will today. A little bit of a thought experiment. We're going with Kendre Miller. I've talked him up a ton. I think Kendre Miller could be the number 1 running back for the Saints for the first couple weeks of the season while Alvin Kamara is suspended. Coming out of college, Kendre Miller was in the draft process talked about like DeAndre Swift, like Alvin Kamara, this great pass-catching running back with upside. If they get in the goal line, Jamal Williams is going to jam that shit into the end zone. You better believe it. But when they're moving up the field, I think Miller's going to get a lot of opportunity. Again, if Kamara is suspended, I don't think it's a huge if. I don't think it's a huge ask for that to happen. But it's July 10th, and that still hasn't happened yet. It's July 10th, and the NFL still has not suspended Alvin Kamara. it is very shocking, if I'm being honest with you at this point, right? It is very shocking that they haven't fucking suspended the guy because we know that he did it. We know. After Kendre Miller, Evan Ingram, Russell Wilson, Zay Jones, and Donta Foreman, Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson. Sound like my Tyson. Next up here, do we need more running backs? At some point, it's too many running backs. And Njoku fell. We're going to go Njoku. We are going to go Njoku again. I'm buying in on this Cleveland Browns offense. I love the Cleveland Browns offense. We already have Cooper. But then again, we have Freiermuth and we have Deontay Johnson. So I think that's perfectly acceptable. Just got to make sure they have different bye weeks. Bye 5 for Njoku. Bye 6 for Freiermuth. Perfect. And then every week, you switch in and out, whichever tight end you think has the better matchup. You can subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button down below. If you subscribe to the channel every single week during the season, I'll tell you which tight ends I like better. So you don't even have to think about it yourself. I'll just tell you what to do. And hopefully I'm right. Right? Some of the times, at least. No one's going to be right 100% of the time. That's kind of what I mean by that. A lot of people think that just because I make YouTube videos, I'm going to get everything correct. That's basically impossible. After David Njoku, we got Devin Singletary. I mean, like, Mel Kiper is on fucking TV for the NFL draft. He doesn't even get everything right, and he gets paid a gazillion dollars. After David Njoku, we got Devin Singletary, Ezekiel Elliott, Tank Bigsby, Kenneth Gainwell, Greg Dulcich, Roquan Johnson, Chig Okonkwo, Chuba Hubbard, Kirk Cousins. You like that? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Dalton Schultz, Jerome Ford, Gerald Everett, Michael Cotta, Gus Edwards, Cole Kmet, Geno Smith, and Tyler Higbee. So now we are going to go ahead and draft our final wide receiver and then draft a kicker or defense. Once you're this deep in the draft, you can make the argument for anyone, and I'm not going to say it's crazy. Look, I don't like Curtis Samuel, but I get why some people like him. I'm not all aboard the Gallup train, but again, it's the 13th round. Just pick your poison. I love Tyquan Thornton, but the fact that they paid Devontae Parker worries me, and the fact that they're still kind of one of the favorites to get D-Hop really dampens my hype for Tyquan Thornton. Again, if you think that Josh Jacobs is going to get he's going to hold out, this, that, and the other thing, then Zamir Gibbs should be an insta-click for you in the 13th round. I forgot Chase Edmonds is on the fucking Bucks. I hate Chase Edmonds. Oh, man. I hate Chase Edmonds for what he did to the Dolphins, man. That game where Tua got hurt against the Bengals, Tua threw the ball right to Chase Edmonds. It fucking smacked him in the hands, and he dropped it. Man, oh man, that pisses me off to this day. So after here, we got to make a pick, obviously. We're not going to sit here and dwindle upon a sad time of my life when Tua got hurt and in a game where we could have won if Tua stayed healthy. Van Jefferson, Hodgins. There's a lot of guys I like here. Again, later in these drafts, I'm not going to try to keep drafting the same wide receivers. Like you guys know, at least from yesterday's video, I love Isaiah Hodgins. I'm going to take Tim Patrick here. Could be the wide receiver 2 on Denver. I actually want to go Terrence Marshall because I'm seeing a lot of hype for Marshall. Hasn't done shit at the NFL level. Was really good at LSU with Joe Shiesty. I think Terrence Marshall could legitimately be the wide receiver 1 on Carolina. And finding the wide receiver 1 on any team is kind of hard to find when you're in like the 13th, 14th round. So I'm very happy to find that. Again, we didn't draft a backup quarterback because we paid up for Joe Shiesty. After Terrence Marshall, we see Cordero Patterson, Zamir White, the Niners defense, the Eagles defense. So we're going to go with kicker first here. Just whatever the best kicker available is. Whoever you like the best, pick them. Go with Tucker, McPherson, Bass. I'm going to go with my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku, because he has my favorite nickname. In reality, I probably should have went with like Tucker there, but again, this is a mock draft. This isn't a real draft. I probably would have taken one of the better kickers. And then for defense here, you just want to draft the best defense with the best matchup in week 1. The Saints, I've drafted them a million times. They play the Tennessee Titans and the Atlanta Titans in week 1, and then they get Carolina, and then they get Green Bay, and then they get Tampa Bay. I had to edit that out because I dropped my phone, but they have 4 straight weeks of great matchups. Again, Tennessee. Then you get rookie Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young's going to be good, but rookie Bryce Young. Jordan Love might potentially suck. And then Baker Mayfield. And then you get Mac Jones. And then you get CJ Stroud. Holy shit. You might get 6 straight games of the Saints. So, even better. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys all so much. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We are going to draft the Saints. We're going to recap our team. We got a C+. but I don't care. I think this is an A-plus squad. Our team is Joe Shiesty, Joe Mixon, Rashad White, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pat Fryermuth, Amari Cooper, Saints, and Younghoe Koo. Our bench is Deontay Johnson, Khalil Herbert, Elijah Mitchell, Kendre Miller, David Njoku, and Terrace Marshall. Let me know down below what you guys think about this team. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are there some players that I picked that you would change? And are there any teams in this draft that you like better than mine? In one of the last drafts I did, Team 12 looked like they were like a monster squad. It was crazy. So let me know down below in the comment section. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.